Happy 1,000 subs, everyone. It's been a long time coming, but we finally reached 1,000 subs, and I just want to say thank you all for helping me get here. I couldn't have done it with many people in the community, some of my favorite other content creators that I've worked with, and a lot of you that I talk to across many social media platforms. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And as a thank you, and something that I've kind of promised to some of you, I'm here to finally talk about my top 10 anime of all time. Obviously, that's going to encompass a lot of years because I started watching anime in roughly 1995, 1996. So between then up until now, and maybe anime that came out before I was born, we've got a lot to run through. But if you're brand new here, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Animel. I'm Mel, the host of this channel, and if you have not been here before, make sure you subscribe before you watch the rest of this video. And I feel like this list, if you know me well enough, if we've conversed, or if you've been a long-time subscriber, may not shock you. But for those of you who don't know me that well, maybe it will. But I will just say, I'm just gonna preface, for some of you who may think that my taste is different from others, it's not. I'm pretty basic, and you're gonna find out in this video. Without further ado though, let's start with number 10. This one was really hard to place because I love it, but I wasn't sure if I should put it in my top 10, just because I feel like the manga did a better job. But since we're talking about anime, I was like, question mark, question mark, question mark. But as I continued to think about it more and more, I said to myself, yeah, Kaguya-sama Love is War definitely belongs somewhere in my top 10. While I've never created a full-length video around it, just because I feel like Kaguya-sama Love is War is so well known, and I feel like I didn't have much say or contribute around it, I think just the fact that I can enjoy a high school romance comedy in my adult years and laugh as much and still relate as much to some of these like goofballs is what makes me continue to come back to Kaguya-sama Love is War. The number of times that I have watched it by myself with friends over and over again is actually ridiculous. Because these awkward teenagers, I feel like we've kind of all been there before. Miyuki and Kaguya both start off as immense competitors within Kaguya-sama Love is War. But as we come to find out, as they're trying to make each other confess to each other as a means of like power, means of like just being better than the other person, they both start to succumb to their weaknesses and become more vulnerable towards each other. And I just love how they both like evolve throughout the story. But not only does Kaguya and Miyuki evolve so beautifully, but Ishigami Yu, love him. Honestly, one of my favorite characters within the entire story of Kaguya-sama. He, I feel like, has the most drastic changes aside from Kaguya herself. But it's like those soft and tender moments and seeing them evolve is what sometimes makes this anime really worth it. And I mean, the narrator, both in English and in Japanese, is so goated. Like, I cannot stress enough how much the narrator alone makes me laugh. And I feel like Best Girl, Fujiwara Chika, honestly one of my favorite characters of almost all time, just brings a different life to the anime. So for that reason, like all of these reasons is why it's placed on my top 10 list. And I mean, if you don't love Kaguya-sama's War, I mean, it's okay. It's got like a unique humor to it, but as someone who really loves comedy, it's not odd for you to see it on my top 10 list. And while the anime is not done, I am looking forward to the ending because it seems like, one, the ending is going to be a film, and two, it's going to be an original from the manga, which honestly, you know, I might like it more. Okay, number 9, I was also fighting on really hard. Like, there were a lot of contenders that I put into this slot. Like, some contenders that got listed but that are not on this list were like Chihayafuru, Cardcaptor Sakura, Death Note, Violet Evergarden, and a couple of others that I can't quite remember at this moment. But as I kept looking at this short list and like who I was going to place in the number 9 spot, this anime kept coming back to me more and more, just because I feel like it really shaped a lot of me growing up. It had like such a huge presence in my childhood, and as I continued to get older, I just still found ways to come back to this anime. And the number of times that I've like rewatched the film that it's attached to Digimon Adventure is I can't even tell you how many times. If you watched my March Madness experiment project, whatever you want to call it, you'll know that I found that Digimon Adventure like provided a lot of mature themes despite like it being about children. Like, yeah, there are other anime that like also provide mature themes, but like watching this in my youth and then watching it again as an adult, I like was still able to feel similar or the same way in watching it. And it just kind of like was groundbreaking to me as to how they dealt with some of these themes, like just growing up, friendship, like young romance, and trying to figure out your awkwardness as you go from like being a kid to being a teenager. Also dealing with like loss, because that was like kind of heavy, very deep. Like I still find myself crying when watching certain moments from Digimon Adventure. And I just really love the fact that like it aired in like the late 90s, early 2000s, but really felt like beyond its time, so much so that like some of like the technology and the ideas of Digimon Adventure just feels so real now, like real to society now. And whoever like came up with the idea was like, brain was way in the future, and I just love how they built the idea of Digimon Adventure. Also, like, I still love the animation. So it was really hard to keep it off my list, and I just kept coming back to it for all of these different reasons. And also it just has so many memorable moments. The fight between Taichi and Yamato. There are so many memorable moments that I personally can remember when it comes to Digimon Adventure. And I think it will always have a very special place in my heart. I feel like I've been talking a lot already. We're only on number 8 now. So obviously as the years go on, some of my very favorites from the 90s and the early 2000s start to drop off the list, and you start to see some more recent ones. And it's not that I don't love the earlier ones. I also tried to make sure that like nostalgia wasn't a pure driving factor for every single anime that I put on this list. I mean, I also thought about Inuyasha, but then I was like, as I think about it, it probably has been carried off the list over the years. So in the number 8 spot, despite the anime not really being done yet and only having 2 seasons, is Vinland Saga. When I tell you that the pure contrast from season 1 to season 2 purely like shocked me. I feel like low-key a lot of people who watched this got completely catfished by it. I mean, I kind of did too, but I felt like it was the best catfishing because you thought this was going to be purely action. You thought it was going to be like one of those crazy battle anime that you often see where there's war and just like all this like intensity. And there's still that intensity when you shift from season 1 to season 2, but season 2 just became so much more mellow, and you start to see some of the messaging that they're trying to display in Vinland Saga. And I've got to say that like the way that they did it was just so magnificently done that I was like, wow, I feel like this anime is going to like carry in my heart and my mind probably forever. Because we start off with Thorfinn, whose father is taken away from him at a very young age, where he spends basically his entire youth going after the guy that took out his father, Askeladd, and just like is his whole life, his whole mind, his whole embodiment is steeped in rage, revenge, and anger. And after realizing that all of this is kind of like pointless because he never is able to get his revenge, he realizes that like this is not the way. And just due to the fact that like he was living his life so wild, so crazily in season 1, he eventually becomes a slave in season 2. And I feel like this is where like the whole story shifts and Thorfinn shifts as a character. That the most memorable line from season 1 that his father says that he kind of brings back in season 2 is, "I have no enemies." Like so very powerful seeing that scene, even though like he clearly has enemies, like people who are coming after him, people who want to do him harm. And the other interesting dynamic is that he meets Canute in season 1, who is like very much the polar opposite of him in season 1. Very calm dude, very like not about violence. And you see just like a complete shift in both of them, and they become the opposite of each other just due to like their exposures and the circumstances that they go through. And I thought the way that they're telling the story, and I hope to see the season 3 at some point, you know, Mappa fingers crossed, the way that they're just telling the story just gears Vinland, I feel like it gears Vinland Saga up to be a fantastic and phenomenal story. And I think for the most part, while I love comedy, I love really fun anime, sometimes I like really simple stuff, you know, like any other person. It is amazing when you find a story that just has like this emotional grip on your heart and emotional grip on your mind as well. And I feel like Vinland Saga does just that for me. And speaking about emotional, in our number 7 spot, something very new but super duper popular now is Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I mean, just the whole premise of Frieren being like after like main events. You get what I'm saying? It's after the Demon Lord has been defeated. It's after being within a party with these people that she's been with for like quite a few years. And it's after like most of her party has aged and died off because she's an elf and she lives for a very, very long time, is where this story takes place. So we spend a lot of time exploring her present and her past simultaneously in many episodes. So I just love the way that they tell the story and like show the parallels of like what it was before and what it's like now, and kind of what Frieren is learning along the way in her second journey, in the beyond her first journey. And I will say, like, Frieren does this very beautiful thing where they make such small moments feel so meaningful. Like the very first episode, I kid you not, and I think most people who really enjoy Frieren say this: how can the first episode make you so emotional about a character that you know nothing about, but then the rest of Frieren and the episodes and the seasons that have been out so far explore this relationship that Frieren and Himmel had prior to his passing when they were in a party together, and you get to know more and more about him, and it just makes that moment in that first episode just so much more meaningful as you continue to go on. And then even in season 2, they find a way to make characters who appear for literally like 5 seconds. They find a way to make these characters meaningful to you, and you know nothing about them. You know like absolutely nothing about them. Like I cried in one episode of season 2, and I was just like, how do I feel this emotional? I know nothing about this guy. He's been on screen for a total of 3 minutes, and I don't think he'll ever appear in the story again. So like Frieren has this very magical thing that it does. And like Vinland Saga, I love a good story. I love something that's so beautifully written, and I love something that can evoke like emotion in me like that. I don't know, there's just something so fantastic about media that can make you feel a certain type of way. And I feel like Frieren does exactly that. And aside from the beautiful work that Madhouse does, some of the fantastic action scenes that they build into the story, I mean, I feel like Frieren kind of has a lot going for it. And I think that like with more seasons, this could potentially move up higher on my list, but just due to like not enough material, it's a little bit lower on the list. But I'm so looking forward to see what Frieren has to offer with season 3 coming out in 2027. I feel like I rant and I rave about this anime so much. Like anywhere that you've seen me, I am talking about this anime. I mean, I own the manga for them. I feel like you really, at least for me, you can really tell you love something when you decide to collect the physical pieces of it. And while I will say I enjoy the manga more, only because the manga is complete, we get to see more of our characters and how their stories fully flesh out, and kind of how their relationships come to be in the future. And I will say this is probably ranked a little low for as much as I talk about it, but that's only because the anime is not complete. I wish we had more seasons. There's only a season and a couple of OVAs, and you can't really get physical copies for it. Like you can only really get physical copies for the manga. But Watakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku, is quite literally my favorite romance of like ever time, of all time. There is nothing greater than seeing adults that are otaku that you can relate to stumble about and try to figure out love and relationships while also trying to be their most authentic selves. I feel like this is like the most realist, the most human thing that I can see or that I can relate to when it comes to like romance anime. But obviously throw in the fact that it's really, really funny, and they've got so many like call outs to other anime like JoJo and Mario Kart, like so many different things that I'm like, oh, I play that, I've watched that, this scene reminds me of this anime or this manga. It does so much of that, so it just like finds so many different ways to pull you in. And anything more that I can say about this anime, I've probably already said before. I've done a full video about it. I mentioned it in Mel's March Madness. Like, I could probably beat you guys over the head with Watakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku. But I will continue to promote this anime until the end of time because it just fantastically captures like different otaku, romance being an otaku. And I will say like the reason I love it so much is that I think at a point in time, I was like figuring out like who I wanted to be or how I wanted to be with others. And it just really like opened the door to be like, yo, just be yourself and you'll find people who like you for who you are. So that in itself just means so much to me. We're about halfway through the list now. I can't tell whether this is going fast or slow, but number 5 is another newer anime that, you know, shame on you, Netflix, for not having an English dubbing or any other language dubbing for this anime yet. Orb on the Movements of the Earth is one of the most thought-provoking philosophical anime that I've seen in recent time, and honestly it feels like a pure masterpiece after I finished watching it. And for many people who don't like ambiguous endings, maybe it might make you feel a different type of way, but personally I do really love books, stories, I mean any form of media that kind of leaves some things up to the interpretation of the audience, because it allows you and it makes you kind of think a little bit. I mean, who doesn't love a piece of media that makes you think and it just makes your mind go round and round? Well, I personally love that, and hence why Orb is on this list and it's ranked in the upper half of my list. Orb of the Movements of the Earth takes like a realistic time period and some historical reality, but like obviously throws some fiction on it. With a period of time where people believe in geocentrism versus heliocentrism, basically whether the sun is the center of the universe or the earth is, and there's just like these combat of ideas and minds. And this combat is mainly between the church, who says like the earth is the center of the universe, and these other people who could be religious but are scientists at their core, or they're curious, or they're free thinkers, are like, well, no, the stars indicate otherwise. Because how could the earth be the center of the universe and like all of these things happening? So I love one, like just the combat of philosophy, because they go beyond that concept, like the idea of like these two different things, and they start to stretch it like to what's free will, what's free thought, what does it mean to be human? Like if you're human and human was created in the likeness of God, in contrast to the church's like oppression of people, like why can't we think these different things, and why are we being persecuted for having different thoughts? So it's just like a lot of contrasts of different ideas, sometimes ideologies and beliefs that a lot of these characters have. And I love the fact that it's not just one main character. It feels like every character that has been given enough screen time and story time in Orb is a main character, and they drive the story in so many different ways. In a way, it kind of reminds me of Vinland Saga, just due to like its intensity and its drama and some aspects of like action and violence, but it's a little bit more slow paced, a little heavier on the drama, and it will keep you on the edge of your toes, especially after the first 3 episodes, because the shell shock that I had after episode 3, I was like, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? And even with future episodes, they just continue to shift the story so drastically that you really don't know what's going to happen next. And to top it off, it is so wonderfully done with only 25 episodes. And I mean, another piece of work that's done by Madhouse, beautifully animated. I have never seen stars in the sky look so freaking beautiful in an anime before. I was like, damn, this is nice. Like, I was in absolute awe. At number 4, another anime that needs a lot more seasons to it, so much so that I've now shifted to the light novels, is 86. If you want to watch a story about war, about racism, and with soft mecha, it's not like heavy mecha. Like if you watch the trailers, you'll think like, oh, it's a mecha anime. It's not really a mecha anime. It's drama. It's about children going to war, which sometimes makes you think of Gundam a little bit, but it's so deeply rooted with so many like themes that I feel like you can see in society today. 86 is one of those stories that definitely focuses a lot on the relationships that are being built, especially between someone, Lena, who is thought to be the oppressor in this situation, and Shin, who is the oppressed, and how they find a way to come together despite the fact that, you know, Shin and another larger collective group of people who are called the 86 was extremely discriminated against, sent to internment camps, and all sent to war just because they looked different, just because they didn't have silver hair and silver eyes, which again feels very pertinent to many historical events and right now. So I love the fact that like 86 feels like real enough that you can relate it to like current events and relate it to history, but I also love like how emotional it is, how much it makes you feel for the characters, especially some characters that you see for like a blip of a second. It's got really nice clean animation done by A1 Pictures, but A1 Pictures, when are we gonna pick this up again so that I can see the rest of the story? And the music done by Hiroyuki Sawano is just like so beautifully done. So beautifully done that one of the songs I actually used in my wedding to walk down the aisle. Like, it is so wonderfully composed that I think it makes you feel more emotional as you watch this anime. And there are so many moments that I think about when watching 86 that I feel like I can cry on command just thinking about those moments. Like, this one almost hit like top 3 for me, but just due to the fact that, again, like I said, a little bit basic, we've got some other anime in the top 3. All right, we've now reached top 3. Number 3 on the list is an anime that I feel like definitely is due to a lot of nostalgia, but because it's come back and, you know, been revived in some ways, like the new crisp animation and the fact that they're ending the series this summer, like summer 2026, I feel like it still has weight today. But also, this anime is the reason that like I love anime. Like, I've seen plenty of anime before this anime, like Sailor Moon, Cardcaptor Sakura, Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, like so much more came out before this anime. But the release of Bleach was the moment I was like, I really love anime. And I think that this might be something that I like watch for the rest of my life. Bleach was always really fun and really cool to me because it took something like death and like made it a thing. They personified it in some ways, where you have this Shinigami who comes into the real world to take the souls back to the Soul Society, and just the whole world building of Bleach has always like really fascinated me. And beyond that, creating like these swords that can defeat like evil spirits or can send them to the Soul Society was like a really creative way of like talking about like death in the afterlife, which is a theme that I tend to kind of enjoy when watching media, which kind of makes me a little bit partial to Bleach. But then as you continue to watch, like, I love some of the action, I love some of the like more emotional scenes, especially with Ichigo. And at some point you kind of start to like see that like Ichigo is a fantastic main character. He is someone who just wants to protect his family, who wants to protect his friends, and like really is mature beyond his actual years. Introduced to us at the age of 15, bro seems like he's going on 20 something just due to like the circumstances that he grew up in. I'm just seeing like a lot of the symbolism in Bleach, the themes, the really cool art styles and designs, and the fashion wear, like the fashion wear, come on. You can't talk about like fashion in anime without talking about Bleach. Bleach has always kind of like had so much going for it. Granted, there are some filler arcs that people don't necessarily love, like the Mount arc, and there are some canon arcs that may feel a little bit slow when watching the anime, like the Fullbringer arc, which is why it kind of sits a little bit lower on the list, because I feel like the manga adapts things a little bit different. Like the anime was adapted just a little bit different from the manga, to the point that it was like sometimes I enjoyed the source material a little bit more. But in the case of Thousand Year Blood War, I think we're getting so much more, especially anime only content, to flesh out that final arc that, you know, I can enjoy the anime still in a very different way from the manga. Anyway, I digress. If you want to see my full video on Bleach, they're somewhere on my channel. Check out my page. I feel like I cannot talk about my top 10 without talking about One Piece. A huge, epically long story that I got introduced to thanks to my husband. Always finds a way to like wow me and make me love it. It's just like a fun time with emotional moments, with funny moments, with fantastic action moments, with great animation scenes throughout its entire course in history, that it's really hard for me to like ignore it. And while yes, One Piece has its pacing issues, for the most part, I haven't had an issue with them until I picked up the manga, that is. Then I started seeing the issues and I digress. But for the most part, like One Piece as a whole, as its entirety, has like, that was another anime that kind of, I feel like, pushed me in another direction when it comes to my connection to anime. And the fact that One Piece has so much like political messaging in it. Like, you can't watch or read One Piece without seeing the oppression that the government has and tying it back to like real current events. You can't like unsee like the racism that is built into like some of the systems of the government, and so many other things that One Piece has going for it. And I will say, like, One Piece has and does a fantastic job of creating these fantastically sad backstories. I don't think like I've seen any anime that creates backstories like One Piece and just makes you fully break down. Chopper, Nico Robin, Kuma. I mean, even Loki in more recent times, and actually, can I even mention Loki? Because it's not anime yet. Anyway, there's just so much in terms of like backstories. And Sanji's backstory moved me so much, despite how many people in the fandom may feel about Sanji. He is definitely one of my favorite characters and more fleshed out, well-written characters in One Piece, despite all his pervy gags, which is starting to dissipate a little bit more as the story has reached the final stage. But One Piece is so loaded that like all I can really say is that it has changed my relationship with anime like overall, and has brought so much color to my world and so much excitement that it really like just belongs on this list. And last but not least, we have reached number one. Number one is kind of interesting, and I fought myself over number one for a bit. I was like, is Bleach number one? Is One Piece number one? I thought one of those two was gonna be number one just due to like my long-standing connection with both of those anime. But then I thought really hard about it. And then I thought, wait, what's an anime that like I've rewatched, love rewatching, will continue to keep rewatching? And I mean, a lot of these on this list are like that, but this one just spoke to me in so many volumes just because it had everything. It has comedy, it has some romance, it has like, I guess, science for lack of better words. It has educational aspects. I've learned so many things while watching it, but I also love the fact how they take like things that are uncertain during the time period of this story, like things that are like kind of not well known, and finds a way to kind of like articulate and explain it. Also, the female MC, just our MC period, is just a complete relatable badass. Like, just loves to be about her ish and wants to be like not bothered with complex situations. Just like, let me be, let me do what I love and leave me out of it. Because who doesn't feel that way? Please don't pull me into your mess. So number one on my list is Apothecary Diaries. Were you shocked by this? I was shocked by this when I was creating my list. Apothecary Diaries has found a way to make it into my top 10 and number one on my list, just due to the fact that like every single aspect of this story and anime has found a way to like connect with me in so many ways. Like the ways that I just mentioned now, there are so many beautiful animated moments. Some of the complexity of the characters that they introduce, the way that the mystery unravels, because a lot of this is mystery heavy. It feels almost like a crime solving thing, but like, you know, in olden day China. And the way Mao Mao, an apothecary, uses her skills of knowing poisons and just understanding medicine to help out, I guess, well, help out for lack of better words, because she's kind of forced into certain situations and forced to help out, helps out a lot of people within extreme power. And she mostly does this because she doesn't want to be executed. She wants to keep her head down, but she wants to make sure that she's in good standing, to the point that like she can just keep her meager place, which is something that she constantly brings up throughout the story, despite the fact that she like is very knowledgeable, very skillful, and probably like should not be bothered by this, but due to, I guess, the placement of the story at the time that we're in, it's something that she has to constantly be mindful of. But contrary to that, she always finds a way to be involved in these extenuating political circumstances, despite her doing everything in her power to just mind her own business and be about her poison. I think I have not found a main character. I mean, there are main characters that I've mentioned in this video, like Akane, that I really love, but I feel like I haven't found like a main character where I was like, yeah, girl, let's be besties, for real, for real. And as a person who just loves an anime that provides education or learning moments, or moments where it's like, ah, yes, I knew that. This is really interesting the way that they presented it, is another fun piece about the Apothecary Diaries. So I'm really looking forward to season 3 that's going to be split up into a couple of parts. It's supposed to come out in the later fall of 2026. Then we're supposed to be getting a movie, who knows when that's going to get released in the United States. And then we're going to be getting the second half of season 3 in early 2027. I mean, there's just so much to look forward to in Apothecary Diaries that like I'm trying really, really hard not to read some of the source materials like the light novel and the manga. But every time I think about it, I get this itch. That is my top 10 anime of all time as of this year, as of now. This could change in the future. Maybe I'll release more videos in the future as the list updates, but I hope you enjoyed this video. I wonder if any on this list kind of surprised you. If some of these surprised you, let me know in the comments below. And feel free to comment what your top 10 anime of all time is. And I will say that my top 10 manga is definitely very different from this list. Maybe that's something I'll release in the future. But you know, only time will tell. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like. If you enjoyed it, share with a friend so that we can continue to grow the anime community. Comment with any of your thoughts below. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Like, what are you doing if you're still watching and you haven't subscribed yet? But I just want to take a moment again to thank you all again. All of my subscribers, community, people that I've met along the way of this journey. It's not like 5 years yet, but it's close, damn near close to 5 years. I think it's gonna be 5 years in October. So to hit 1,000 subs like really, really means a lot to me. I feel like it's been like up and down. There were moments of like heavy grinding, moments where I had to take a break and hiatus because, you know, a lot of life changes for the good. So kind of just seeing like the fruit of my labors feels like really nice, and I couldn't have done it without each and every one of you being here, continuing to watch my videos and staying subscribed to my channel. So here's to hopefully growing the community a little bit more so that we can continue to talk about various anime as new ones come out, or to talk about older ones so that we can reminisce together, and to me, just making more videos here. So again, thank you. Thank you for watching this video. I'm Mel, the host of Mel, and I will catch you all on the next one. Bye!